In my past life, my parents actually hired someone to take me out so they could snag my $20 million lottery jackpot. But this time around, I got reborn right on lottery day. Mom was dialing me up. If only that money was for the fam, she was saying. First, we'd cover your wedding, then snag your brother a swanky apartment and a sweet car. If that ain't enough, you can chip in too. I shoved the lottery ticket into my pocket. Yeah, if I hit it big, I'll make sure your brother gets everything he needs and send you all on a national tour. I shot back. Mom sighed, all kinda jealous. I wonder who's gonna be lucky with that $20 million. Then she got serious about today's issues. She was griping about utility bills going through the roof, not having enough cash for my brother's expenses, and how he was visiting his girlfriend's fam with nada to show. Plus, she mentioned that she and Dad weren't exactly in tip-top shape, feeling downright miserable. Basically, she summed it up with 2 words. Money needed. She only hits me up when I get paid. But this time, I wasn't about to just hand over my paycheck like I used to. Instead, I played dumb. When she moaned about high electric bills, I cursed the power company. When she said my brother was making a fool of himself, I assured her their relationship was solid. When she brought up health issues, I pretended to cry about how little time they might have with me. Mom quickly cut me off after that. With a tired tone, she said, "Emma, I know we messed up, but he's your brother. Can you watch him get judged by his girlfriend's family? We got him for your sake, so you'd have someone to lean on and not get bullied when you married. Now he's in trouble. It's about supporting each other." Oh, so they had my brother all for me, huh? Mutual support? In my past life, I never got a dime or a single word of concern from him. I told Mom, kinda hesitantly, that I was broke. Of course she didn't buy it. I didn't ask you last month, so between last month and now, you must have at least $6,000. How can you be out of money? She nailed it perfectly. I busted out my best acting skills, putting on a sad face. Sob, sorry, Mom. I didn't mean to hide money. She was spot on. I kept faking the tears. Sob, sorry, Mom. I didn't mean to hide money. This chick was selling birds' nests, and I thought it wouldn't break the bank since it was for you, but she blocked me after I paid. I showed her a screenshot of my bank balance. $250. It felt like I was mocking her and my past self because I actually got scammed on Bird's Nest once. Unlike that time, I hadn't instantly told her about winning $20 million. I shoved the lottery ticket deeper into my pocket. Seeing the screenshot, Mom couldn't even fake being weak anymore. She exploded at me. "Emma, no wonder you only got into college. You're such an idiot." Her words clenched my fingers tight. Right after middle school, my parents forced me into a free teacher training program. I was always in the top 3 of my grade. My teacher begged them to let me go to high school, but Mom knelt down, saying they couldn't afford to support 2 kids in school. They only reluctantly agreed to the teacher program after a lot of thinking. The teacher was so shocked she didn't even argue anymore. Back then, my brother was sick, and I, being naive, felt bad for my parents. I didn't get what paying for a $3,000 monthly piano class for my brother meant. By the time I realized I'd already graduated college and was teaching at a rural elementary school, I guess Mom remembered those days too. She stopped insulting me, but her words still stung. "How about this, Emma? Hand me your paycheck card. The school gives food and a place to stay. I'll give you $300 a month and save the rest so you can buy a house later?" Huh, like the deed wouldn't be in my brother's name. I kept up the sad act, but lately there were fewer students and my class was doing dead last. My 5-year contract was ending soon, and the principal might kick me out. I could hear her getting more intense on the other end. So I went for the ultimate play. "Mom, can you lend me some money? I might need it to rent a place while job hunting. Mom, can you hear me?" The call ended. I cracked up, almost choking from laughing. My eyes, which were only a bit stingy at first, started feeling worse. I blinked hard but couldn't stop the tears from rising. Being financially independent isn't tough, but being mentally free is key. If I kept leaning on them, no amount of money would cut it. They'd just give it all to my brother. Hearing Mom's voice brought back memories from my past life. The accident didn't hurt because I passed out right away. When I woke up, I was paralyzed in bed. Mom was whining to the neighbor patient about raising a daughter only for her to become a burden. Thankfully, my brother had that $20 million lottery ticket. As soon as the neighbor left, she trashed them, calling them losers and wishing to see me suffer. Then, Mom saw I was awake and was so startled she almost fell. Awkwardly, she said, "Emma, you're awake. Does anything hurt? I told you not to cross the street carelessly." Blaming me was her specialty. Maybe my icy stare annoyed her, making her mad. "Why are you acting like that? Waiting for an apology? You wanted to split half of it, huh? Even keeping $1 million won't cover an apartment. We fed and clothed you, gave you life. If we want something in return, what's wrong?" Mom kept trash talking, acting like it was all my fault. Dad stopped her rant. "This hospital is too pricey. Let's move her." They moved me to a hospital in a nearby less developed province, paid $2,000 as a deposit, then disappeared. I was in neurology for a whole month. Once I could move a bit, I pulled out my own oxygen tube. My hospital fees were cut from what the doctors and nurses paid, which was a lot. After taxes, the $20 million lottery turned into $16 million. I split it into 4 parts and took a late-night train to a neighboring province to stash it. One part went into a 1-year fixed deposit to switch to 3 years when it matured, another into 2-year terms, another into 3-year ones, all set to auto-renew for 3 years. For big sums, I negotiated a 3.75% rate with the bank. That gave me $40,000 a month in interest. And if I needed to pull out early, the penalty wasn't too harsh. The last part, I donated $500,000 to the lottery center as usual. I gave another $1 million to the neurology department where I was previously hospitalized. I made sure the doctors, nurses, and 2 supervisors who took care of me got $100,000 each, with the rest split among others. That left me with $2, $5 million for everyday use. Staring at that bunch of zeros in my bank account, I realized how dope $250 could be. After sorting out my money needs, I officially quit. The principal tried to keep me around. "This semester, your students did great in the elementary school entrance rankings. 2 of them even made it to the top 100 in the city. If you lead 3 more graduating classes, I'll recommend you to the Provincial Central Elementary School." I shook my head. After teaching for 5 years, I was drained. Now I had enough cash. I wanted to chill and pick up some hobbies. Right at summer break's start, the handover went smooth. As I left school, the sun broke through the clouds, casting light through the leaves onto the pavement, creating a mosaic of reflections. A soft breeze brushed my cheek, bringing a hint of warmth. Mom's call shattered the peace. "Is Emma on break yet?" I made spicy fish. By the time I got home, my parents were loudly plotting in the living room. "How many times have I told you? Don't scold her. If you want money, you gotta be smart. I can't even say a few words. A few words and she won't come home for a week. Honestly, I just forgot. But in Dad's eyes, this was the start of rebellion. With so many young girls online ignoring their parents, do you want Emma to be like them? She's soft-hearted, a little kind, and she'll give you all her money. Don't be too obvious and hurt her feelings. Play it smart this time. Peter agreed to a $200K dowry. And if we add another $200K, we can get our son married." Mom reluctantly agreed. I stared at the message on my phone from the donation coordinator saying the $1 million had been distributed, deep in thought. $200K dowry. I messed up my hair and clothes to look really down and out. I put on a miserable face, faking fumbling with my keys as I entered. "What's up?" Mom greeted me enthusiastically and froze, seeing my state. My voice shook. Tears welled up. The school fired me before I could finish. Mom let out a sharp exclamation. "What did you say?" "The Smiths specifically named you as their teacher." "Which Smiths?" I widened my eyes at Mom, acting clueless. Dad pulled Mom aside, forcing a smile. "Emma, where have you been staying? With no money, why not come home? We worry." Classic move, cutting right to the chase. I dried my tears and spun a story. The day I got fired, I was wandering the streets with my suitcase, saved a little boy from getting hit by a car. His dad, a nice rich guy, hired me as a private tutor paying $30K a month. Mom and Dad's eyes lit up. I fanned the flames, showing them the $20K balance in my account. This is for buying all the educational materials and toys. Mom's breathing sped up. What about the kid's mom? Doesn't she look after him? She's a career woman, super focused on work. I've never seen her. Mr. Miller even wants me to go with them to LA, at least until the kid graduates elementary. Is the mom going? Nah. My parents glanced at each other, desires barely hidden. This is a great chance. Make sure the kid gets attached to you. Can't do without you." I frowned, feeling uneasy. But Mr. Miller's gaze made me uncomfortable. Dad was happy at first. Then his face darkened. "What nonsense! He values education, assessing your skills. Such luck like hitting the jackpot." Even though I could guess their reactions, my scarred heart still hurt a bit. So eager for their own daughter to become a mistress, I didn't want to stay. The next day, I made an excuse about Miller having urgent work and left early. As I left, my parents kept telling me to win over both Miller and his son. As soon as I hit LA, Mom's probing began. "Did Mr. Miller check out your place?" I sent her a pic of my rented 5,300 square feet luxury apartment with a night view just like she wanted. The next day, Mom updated her Twitter. "Emma's boyfriend spoils her. Just a part-time gig, and he buys this fancy place near work." The comments were full of curious aunts and uncles. Mom replied to all the well wishes and even clapped back at some snarky comments. But she ignored questions about marriage. Mom loves to flex. And over the next few months, she asked for tons of lifestyle pics, which I provided, all flashy and posh. In a past life, she'd shown off for a bit, only to get conned by scammers, losing $500K in a tailor-made scam. This time, without my lottery windfall to back her up, what would she lose? The savings meant for my brother's home, maybe. I couldn't wait to see. Sure enough, not long after she called asking for money, the amount was a clean $500K. I pretended not to hear and started crying hysterically before she could press on. "Mom, Mr. Miller turned out to be a scammer. I'm stuck with $3 million in debt. Mom, you gotta help me. I don't want to run away to escape them. I want them too scared to find me even if they know where I am. I want a real end." Mom didn't believe me at first, but after my nonstop borrowing sob story, she hung up quickly. 5 minutes later, she called back. I guess she and Dad talked it over, deciding to test my claim. "I'll come take care of you. We can't pay off the debt, but we can ease your burdens." Translation, no money, but plenty of unsolicited advice. I was moved to tears, agreeing tearfully. I checked the weather forecast and told her I'd be on leave 2 days later, suggesting she come then, subtly hinting she buy her own train ticket. She grudgingly agreed, and I could feel her rage through the screen. Not that I cared. I went to the real estate agent's account and made 5 specific requests. I wanted old, rundown, and tiny places, with difficult landlords and annoying neighbors. The agent had never heard such outrageous demands. At first, she tried hard to sell me spacious apartments and ocean view properties, aiming for a bigger commission, but she gave in to my sneaky money tactics. Within a day, she showed me 5 old, rundown spots. I fell in love at first sight with the last one. The hallway was trashy. The landlord had taped signs on broken mirrors demanding $500 for damage, and the neighbors were drunk messes, shouting obscenities as they staggered home, half-dressed. Satisfied, I signed the lease. Then, I hit the market to grab some grandma floral-patterned short sleeves. The next day, dressed in my finest, I headed to the train station. From 10 meters away, at the ticket check, I could hear Mom yelling loud and clear, "It better not be that Mr. Miller figured it out and made Emma pretend to be broke. If so, I'm gonna skin her alive and at least demand full payment for a wedding house." I waited 5 minutes before heading over. As soon as I met up with Mom, I hurriedly dragged her out. "I'll take you home first. I just got a job and the boss is rushing me over." I sped past her before she could react and out of the train station. We walked straight into a downpour. Thank God for weather forecasts. Mom's clothes were thin and she was soaked in seconds. Rain dripped down her exaggerated false lashes like a tiny waterfall. She couldn't help but scold me. "Use the umbrella, you idiot!" I shouted back. "What did you say? The rain's too loud, can't hear you. I gotta rush to work." Then I pulled her along. Mom lost her balance and fell, her heels flying off. It was a funny sight. She had such double standards, doing whatever she wanted but calling others trashy for dressing up. Back in middle school, when I wanted a bra, she shamed me, and I had to go to school slouched. It was the neighbor grandma who couldn't stand it and secretly bought me some little vests. Mom's yell snapped me back. "I told you to get an umbrella and take a cab. Are you deaf?" I bashfully admitted, "I'm not deaf, just broke. I only have $100 on me." Mom fumed and demanded we get a cab. I had to give in, spending 80 coins to take us back to the old, rundown place. At home, our drunk neighbor whistled at us. Mom's face turned a horrible shade of blue. Before she could lash out, I hurriedly announced I was heading out. Mom didn't stop me since it was for work. I drove my newly bought Porsche to a nearby budget hotel. After a comfy hot shower, I switched on my surveillance of the rundown apartment. Mom came out of the bathroom, shivering and cursing. Heh, the place doesn't have hot water yet. Then she grabbed the table's taped up, about to fall apart hairdryer. It shorted and smoked in under a minute. Scared, she tossed it on the floor. The noise brought the landlord over. After an inspection, he charged her $2,500. Mom wanted to trash talk him, but got too scared seeing his scarred face. She reluctantly transferred the money. Once the landlord left, Mom tried to smash something but stopped midair. Her face changed colors. Ultimately, she took it out on Grandma floral-patterned short sleeves from my closet. She barely tore a few before getting exhausted. Panic set on her face. The rain and wild emotions brought on a fever. She managed to call me. "Hurry back, take me to the hospital." I rushed back. Once home, I shook her shoulders vigorously, enough to make her see stars. "Mom, what's wrong? Don't scare me." "Boo-hoo-hoo, I'm feverish, need and for." I hung my head in shame. "I have just $20, spent $80 on the cab." Mom almost fainted from anger. Frantically, I yelled, "Mom, don't scare me, I'll find meds." I rummaged around for 3 minutes, finally pulling out 2 ibuprofen from my pocket. I quickly stuffed them in her mouth. "There's no drinking water, sorry." She nearly choked, wide-eyed. I propped her on the couch and rushed for cold water from the bathroom. Try physical cooling, it really works. Unfortunately, I accidentally stepped on blow-dry shards, and with a splash, cold water drenched her. Another bath down the drain. She finally exploded, using her last bit of strength to shout, "Take me to the hospital, I'm paying," then passed out again. I shook her awake. "What's the passcode?" 0127. "Oh look, it's my brother's birthday." Such mom-like romance. I dragged her to an infamous scammy hospital. Grabbing the doctor's sleeve, I cried. She suddenly fainted. Could it be something serious? The doctor's eyes twinkled, reassured. "Leave it to me." After all the tests, saline infusion, and glucose, it cost $3,000. "Congratulations, Mom. Welcome to LA, where you just contributed $5,500 to the GDP. When Mom saw the bill, she nearly fainted again. The next day, she insisted on going to work with me. "You owe so much now. I'm nervous you'll go astray. Seeing for myself will ease my worries." Moved to tears, I pulled her along to walk from the suburb to downtown. August in Los Angeles is scorching. You could fry an egg on the pavement. Yesterday's rain felt like a minor fluke. After just half an hour, Mom's forehead was dripping sweat into her collar, soaking her back. She reached her limit and decided to take a cab. At the office, I grabbed a huge stack of flyers from the staff. Emma, ready to distribute. Mom was shocked. "You taught primary school for 5 years and now do this?" Mr. Miller tricked me into signing, saddling me with debt so I can only take odd jobs. My eyes reddened, plus with my low qualifications. Schools here only hire grads from top 6 education universities. They don't want me. Hearing this, Mom looked awkward. I asked, "Want to help distribute?" Of course she refused. I didn't force her. I told her to find a cool spot to stay. Unfortunately, all we had around was the plaza. She had to hold a flyer over her head to block the sun as she watched me weave through the crowd. I was hot too, and quickly sent a message to nudge the actor. In less than 3 minutes, there was a commotion where my mom was. An old lady with gray hair was sprawled out, throwing a tantrum at my mom's feet, accusing her of intentionally hitting her and disrespecting the elderly. "Don't make stuff up. You're the one who bumped into me on purpose," my mom retorted. "I don't care, you have to pay me for medical expenses today, or I'll sue you," the old lady demanded, clutching onto my mom's leg to stop her from leaving. Mom, who's always backed down easily, threw $200 at her and made a run for it. The old lady then grabbed the money, took off her white wig, and impressively flipped up from the ground. Onlookers could only shake their heads at the absurdity of it all. Satisfied, I sent her $500 for the act, plus a $200 tip. "Thanks, boss. Hit me up next time you need someone for this kind of gig." I ditched the flyers and headed back to the office. Lisa greeted me warmly. "Get to class already. You're the last one we're waiting for." This place was a huge adult learning center where I'd signed up for so many classes I dreamed of as a kid. Piano, guitar, calligraphy, everything my brother got I signed up for almost as payback, but there are only so many hours in a day. After a while, I stuck with sewing. As a kid, I had a dreamy phase, admiring the flowing dresses of fairies on TV. I'd wrap myself in bedsheets, swipe on my mom's lipstick, and pretend I was casting spells. Dad found it hilarious, but Mom wasn't amused. You're dressing up to lure men at such a young age. Someday, you'll embarrass me by selling yourself, she sneered, cutting my childhood fantasy short. Yet, as an adult, I found a way to continue. I learned to make my own traditional Chinese dresses. My downtown condo was buried in different fabrics. My personal account on TikTok blew up with followers, each day bringing more praise. No exaggeration, my talent in sewing grew rapidly. Pretty soon, I was ready to take custom orders. When class wrapped up, I went back to my small, worn-out apartment. Mom was on the bed, rambling feverishly. Her face was flushed, complaining of a headache and thirst. She probably had heat stroke. When I got home, she didn't mention the hospital this time, just asked me to get her some meds. So, I did. Made sure she drank 3 bottles all at once. Slowly, her breathing evened out, and the frown lines faded. I cuddled close beside her on the tiny bed. The moonlight slipped through the tattered window, casting a silver glow around the room. Leaves outside cast shadows that swayed with the soft breeze. The air was unusually peaceful. I turned to look at Mom. She was 50 now, with strands of gray shining through her hair. Would things be different without the envy that $2 million incident had stirred? Maybe our relationship wouldn't have turned out the way it did last life. I felt a hint of hesitation. Should I stick to the plan of leaving this family behind? Maybe keeping my distance would be enough. I could live my life separately, dropping by now and then. But the next day, I dismissed that silly notion. Security footage made me realize how naive I was. The scene clearly showed Mom on the phone crying to Dad. I can't keep living like this, fever, heat stroke, and now I'm down $5,007. Dad's voice was edgy. David brought his girlfriend home. Her family's well off, both parents are professors, and they don't want a dowry, but we're still expected to cough up the down payment for a downtown house. He snapped, losing his temper. It's your fault our son's down payment was lost. You're such a burden. Mom quietly refrained from arguing, but then recounted her recent woes like she was narrating a tearjerker. Are you sure she doesn't have any money left? Check the room, see if there's anything valuable, Dad instructed. Mom obeyed, rummaging around until she found my carefully hidden credit reports in a small bag at the bottom of the closet. She flipped through all 10 pages, face completely stunned. Oh my gosh, honey, Emma owes not just $3 million, but a full $8 million. After a minute of silence, Dad spoke. Bring Emma back home and find her a decent guy to marry. A married daughter is like spilled water. Her debts won't be our problem anymore. We can even get some dowry cash. After all, raising her this long deserves some return. To some parents, daughters are investments, to be sold at a high price, recovering funds if need be. Sons get a different deal, poured with lifelong savings for a house, car, and wife. If that's not enough, they sell the daughter to make up the difference. Still, they'd blame the daughter for being a financial drain. It's laughable. When Mom told me to come home, I didn't resist. I obediently took the train with her. Little brother's girlfriend was at the house too. Just like Dad said, a clear sign of wealth. She was bubbly and a bit naive, but not unfriendly. Her eyes weren't exactly warm upon seeing me, but stayed polite. Hi, Auntie. Hi, Big Sis. I'm Doris. It was Mom's first time meeting her too, and she was all smiles, holding Doris's hand. No wonder you're a college student. You look so refreshing. Doris blushed crimson, getting along well with Mom. I just felt out of place in the corner and eventually got pulled into the kitchen by Dad to cook. At dinner, the separation was even more apparent. The 4 of them laughed and chatted in harmony. Doris shot glances my way, but never started a convo. I wasn't about to go looking for one either. After dinner, Dad talked alone with me, taking a drag of his cigarette, worry creasing his face. Emma, we really can't help you with that debt, he said. Tears streamed down my face. I won't ask you to, as long as you don't turn me out. Let me have a hot meal when I visit, and I'll be at peace just seeing you both. Oh, come on, you're family. Why would we kick you out? My dad shook his head, looking like he didn't know what to do with me. It's not good to owe so much money, and you're getting older, already 25. Remember Nancy next door? She has a friend with a son, young and handsome, 35, has a car and a house, just really picky, hasn't found someone he likes. Want to meet him the day after tomorrow? Wow, I'm too old at 25, but is a young, handsome 35-year-old? I hesitated. But I owe so much money, so what? If you get married, he wouldn't just leave you hanging, right? Not only would he leave me hanging, but he might also kill me. What sane person wants to bring home someone with $800,000 in debt? If they find out it's a marriage scam, divorce would be the least of it. What if he gets abusive and I have nowhere to turn? You all would enjoy the dowry happily, leaving me behind to endure in-law scorn. What a great idea. Looking at Dad's calculative eyes, I reluctantly agreed. At night, since Doris was staying in my room, Mom let me sleep on the sofa. I was gonna tough it out for a night, but Doris offered to let me bunk with her. When we got to the room, she didn't say a word. On the bed, she tried to stay miles away, almost tearing the blanket. I got super curious. Do I have some contagious disease or something? Doris was stunned. Why are you avoiding me? She's young and her face turned red in an instant. She slowly scooted over. No, it's just... She glanced at me and then stared at the ceiling. You're so pretty. Why'd you become the other woman and get sued for $300,000 by the wife, man? My parents sure told a story. I didn't argue, just changed the subject. What do you like about David? He's handsome. That's true. No ugly ones in this family. My brother took all the good traits. Sharp eyes, strong brows. He can cook. You mean scrambled eggs with tomatoes? That's pretty much all he can cook. I've handled chores all my life. He's never lifted a finger. Doris looked at me starry-eyed. Yeah, I even mess up frying eggs. Such a spoiled little girl. No wonder she let me in. Probably worried I'd be uncomfortable on the couch. He also takes care of stray cats. First time I saw him, he was taking an oil-covered lame stray cat to the vet. We went together, but sadly the cat didn't make it. Was it mean to him? Super mean, likely stressed, kept hissing at David. You never thought the injuries could have been because of David? Doris was shocked and a bit mad. Told me not to talk nonsense. When he was 7, he poisoned a litter of newborn kittens with paint. Doris clutched the blanket tighter. Fear in her eyes. Surprised her. Wait and see the drama tomorrow. The next morning at 5, I got up quietly, grabbed the IDs and house deed I'd sneaked away, and headed out. Waited at the neighbors for about 10 minutes, then pretended to just step out as I heard the unlocking sound. Nancy's curious voice came from behind. Emma, where you headed so early? I acted startled and clutched my documents tight. Just out for a stroll, really. Nancy was in her white workout clothes, her eyes scanning me up and down, full of suspicion. I lowered my head with a sheepish smile. Gotta go, Auntie, and rushed off, footsteps a mess, just like a guilty person. Nancy is the neighborhood gossip queen, and she introduced my blind date. No way she wouldn't be curious seeing me like this. Crossing the street, I glanced back accidentally, saw a flash of white at the electric box 2 meters back, kept my triumphant smile down, weaved through the streets to a local loan shark's office. Turning again, saw Nancy on her phone typing like crazy. Mission accomplished. Private lenders aren't too picky. Even though the house isn't in my name, it can still be collateral. I took my sweet time with the contract, giving my parents enough time to catch up. As the staff rushed me to sign, they got there just in time. Dad snatched the contract and tore it apart, even tried to hit me. I pulled out the kitchen knife I packed beforehand. Dad backed off quick. He was furious. Emma, you're acting out, I sneered. Why is it my debt and you guys don't care? Trying to sell me for a dowry? You talked big about being family and supporting each other. Used that line to take my salary. Now I'm in debt, you should support me too. Sell the house to pay it off. Brother was jumping up and down at the side. You think you deserve any of this? Mom and Dad's property is mine. If you're broke, just go sell yourself. Easy money. He vented his anger without noticing the shock on Doris's face. Mom tried to play the sympathy card. Emma, put the knife down. We never said we wouldn't help you or sell you. We found you a nice match. I laughed out loud, looking at Nancy. Did they tell you I owe $800,000? Nancy was stunned, then yelled at my parents. You jerks, trying to dump this mess on me? Give me back the dowry. My parents were quick. They'd taken the dowry, probably started arranging for me to move since yesterday. Dad couldn't hold back. After the woman, he looked down on pointed fingers at him. He met my gaze. "Give the house deed back. The house is for David. You got nothing to do with it." You, who'd never make it to the family plot even in death, think you can touch Lynn's property. Brother smirked, feeling quite proud. Doris took another step back when she saw what was happening. I tossed the property deed to my dad and grabbed a kitchen knife, swinging it around wildly. "If you're not going to help me pay the loan, don't think about selling me off. I'll take down anyone who tries. My life is pretty much messed up already, so who wants to try me?" I left after that, leaving my parents to deal with Nancy, who was demanding money like a madwoman. Doris later filled me in on what happened next. She had broken up with my brother. My parents tried to subtly talk him out of the relationship, but maybe I pushed them too far. They even suggested my brother force himself on Doris. But Doris used the pepper spray I gave her to spray my brother's eyes and managed to escape. On the phone, she sounded different. Angry. "I'm gonna sue him," she said. Doris's parents were law professors with tons of outstanding students under them. Even if they wanted to keep things neutral, connecting with a good lawyer for such a small case was a piece of cake. The verdict was in favor of Doris. Pay $30,000 within 5 days. My parents were at their wits' end. Their savings had already fallen victim to a scam, and the bride price was used for my brother's down payment. Nancy and her family blocked their door every day for the bride price, while my brother had to pay Doris $30K. They had no choice but to sell the precious 3-bedroom family legacy, a place women weren't supposed to touch. The house was old, in a poor location, and they were desperate to sell. It went for just $350,000. They paid Nancy's family $300,000 for the bride price and gave Doris $30,000, leaving only $20,000 left. The new house they bought was off plan. Not even a basic shell, so my parents had to rent a place to live. My brother's field had a terrible job market, and with a record, he found it even harder to get a job. He was too full of himself to settle for a $2,000 or $3,000 job and ended up sponging off my parents at home. My dad's pension was too small to cover the mortgage, forcing my parents, both in their 50s, to look for work again. When I heard all this, I felt nothing inside. These were the choices they made. I had extended a hand to them for too long, both in this life and the last. I gave them so many chances, but they never took them. Everyone gets tired. My sewing course was over, and I started taking orders. For each hanfu I made, I recorded the process and posted it on my social media account, along with stunning photos, drawing more followers, orders, filming, more followers. It all became a positive cycle. When I hit 500,000 followers, a hanfu design I made went viral. Most of the fans reaching out wanted that piece. I had plenty of money. The initial $6 million was mostly untouched, and with the orders I took, I recouped my investment and leisure expenses. So, I teamed up with a factory and opened a hanfu shop, thanks to a solid fan base, and with around 50 pieces in circulation before my design went viral. Along with rave online reviews, the first outfit blew up in the shop. 10 minutes saw 20,000 orders, with 30,000 people adding it to their cart, kicking things off with a bang. I was swamped with work when 2 months later, I heard more about my folks. My brother met someone online, then quickly married her after meeting in person. A little while later, his wife got pregnant. My parents were thrilled, throwing a 3-day banquet to celebrate having a future heir for the Lynn family. No one expected his wife was already married, and her husband from out of state even came to attack my brother, breaking his leg. When I found out, I was taken aback. An employee interrupted my thoughts. "Emma, a promo video just went viral. We're out of stock." "All right, I'll contact the factory," I replied. The past is in the past. I've repaid my debts in my previous life.